Hi, my name is Inon, and I'm here to introduce you to an alternative medicine by Moshe Brantz. Many people study hypnosis, healing, acupuncture, and other use of herbs as medicine. My father was introduced to an alternative medicine in a natural way by an outstanding incident. When he was about 14 and a half, he had to have a blood test at a central clinic. As the nurse inserted the needle to his vein, my father lost consciousness and fell to the floor. Everything started to look foggy, snow white, accompanied by a strange noise. At this point, my father separated from his body and started to float upwards, almost touching the ceiling. From above, he saw everything, including his own body laying on the floor. The nurse could not wake him up, and she called for help. A doctor and two nurses arrived. They picked him up and laid him on the bed at the adjacent room. About half an hour later, my father returned to his body, opened his eyes, and told the nurse about his experience. He knew all the details, how the nurse tried to wake him up and then called for help. He described the two nurses, he knew their names, and he repeated the conversation they had. The nurse was in total shock, as was my father. He realized that we are made of two separate entities, the body and the soul. My father started to investigate and find ways to understand these phenomena. At 1963, when he was 15 and a half, he had a girlfriend by the name of Daniela. He went with her and her parents, Frank and Lena, to a hypnosis show by an Italian hypnotist, Ciccarelli. Ciccarelli hypnotized Daniela, Lena, and about 20 other people on stage. During the whole show, my father thanked God for having the opportunity to witness this show. He felt that hypnosis is the tool that will allow him to investigate how he was separated from his body and how the subconscious mind works. The very same night, he was awake, thinking and analyzing the hypnosis phenomena, and he was sure that he can implement Ciccarelli's technique. The next day, my father recreated what Ciccarelli did on stage. He hypnotized Daniela and her mother, and since then, he never stopped hypnotizing people. About a year later, my father had performed lifetime regression. These events were checked and validated. At another party, he met a man that stuttered. My father hypnotized him and discovered the traumatic experience that happened at this person's childhood and caused the stuttering. After a treatment, the man had no longer stuttered. When my father turned 18, he met a man that had a very stiff neck. And in order to turn his head, he had to turn his whole body. My father asked him what caused the problem and found out that the man's vertebrae had shifted. My father had invited this person to his house and let him stand against the wall straight and treated him. My father moved his hand up and down this man's spine for a few minutes and released the tension. Immediately afterwards, the man turned around and bent freely. The next day, while visiting the physician, the man had showed the doctor he could turn and bend. The doctor was shocked and asked what caused the miracle and sent the patient for an x-ray. The new x-ray was compared to the old one, and it was obvious that the vertebrae returned to the original position. Since then, my father was confident that he can help other patients too. One of my father's friends told him that his own father has cancer and he's unconscious. The next day they both went to the hospital. He was standing at the sick person's bed together with a few physicians. My father had moved his hand above the patient's body for about 15 minutes. Suddenly, the friend's father got up and stood without any assistance. He then lived for another 2 years and passed away from other reasons than cancer. Since then, my father helped many people. Thank you for your time, and if you need help, it will be our pleasure to help you too.